What if Roaring Moon was in Gen 2 OU? The anomalies don't stop. There's already been some weird stuff going on with the Mega Stones and hidden abilities in the Sinnoh and Hoenn region. But strangely, Johto seems to be fine-ish. Like, they have, some Paradox Pokemon, so that's why I'm looking over Roaring Moon today. But it doesn't seem that bad. I'm curious to see how Roaring Moon's gonna do in the Gen 2 metagame. But I feel like it's not gonna be anywhere near as impactful as the last two Pokemon I went over, with Mega Garchomp in Gen 4 and Ninetales having Drought in Gen 3. So let's just get into it. Now, first off, I'm just gonna say that this is gonna be in some ways very similar to my video on what if Salamence was in Gen 1 OU. Because Roaring Moon, he has stats, really good stats. In fact, in some ways, he has better stats than Salamence. However, this was before the physical special split. And this dude was unfortunate enough to be a Dragon and Dark type, meaning that Dragon and Dark are special moves. And that's a 55 special attack stat. Not good. Really not good. Yeah, we're already off to an issue. Well, if there were some special stats, let's say 60 to 70, maybe I would say it might be worth it. But here, no. I just don't think there's any moves or special moves that are worth it. Not Crunch, not Outrage or Fire Blast or even Hydro Pump, because you can learn all of those. But I didn't bother making any calcs with them because I just didn't see it doing very well, especially in Gen 2 where everything's so bulky. What do you plan on doing? Maybe Crunch could do decent chip damage to a Psychic type, but the Psychic type would just Rest Talk it off or stall out with leftovers. So you kind of just have to use non-stop physical moves. And it gets even worse, because Dragon Dance isn't a thing yet, and he doesn't learn Swords Dance, nor does he learn the big one, Curse. So he doesn't have any ways to boost his attack. So he's like Salamence in Gen 1 OU, where he has big stats, he can hit hard, but that's about it. But unlike Salamence, he does have some good things going for him that do make him unique. That 119 speed is the main reason why you might consider using him. Because it is fast. Really fast. Not the fastest thing in the format. It's definitely not faster than Aerodactyl or Jolteon, but I think it's close to that. Let's see here. Let's change this to Gen 2 OU real quick. Add Pokemon going off their speed stat. So, okay, yeah, so it'll be around here between Dugtrio and Raikou. Being able to be faster than Raikou is a big deal. So, that's very good. And as for his typing, I'd say it's both good and bad. The main benefit here is having that Dark typing. Being immune to Psychic is really big. It means a Pokemon like Exeggutor just have a very hard time fighting you. As for the Dragon type though, is it good? Definitely better here than Gen 1, but I think you're still mostly the most part hitting a lot of neutral moves. So I don't know. I really don't know. There's still some ice Pokemon say Cloyster and Jinx, but I think the Dragon type is probably good. I forgot that some of the best Pokemon in the tier are electric types, Zapdos and Raikou. So it's definitely good. And also, even if ice types were a big problem, he is not like Salamence. He's not quad weak. He can do a decent job, surviving it. Another benefit and also a detriment is the fact that it's not Gen 1, so crits aren't determined by speed, so they're not as common, which is both a good and a bad thing. Good because it means those super effective attacks, you have an easier time being able to maybe survive them, but on the other hand, you have 119 speed. you would have really appreciated it if you had a much better chance creating people. But you can't really do anything about it, so let's just go over what moves you would have. And ignoring the special moves like Crunch, like the usual moves he would have would be something like Body Slam, Earthquake, and I think the only other ones is just Rock Slide and Double Edge, which wasn't desirable, not gonna lie. So personally, like when the replays is sort of go back and forth between Double Edge and Rock Slide, but I do think at the end of the day, Earthquake and Rock Slide would be the better moves, because yeah, they don't hit neutrally as hard as Double Edge, but having super effective coverage does actually make him a pretty good revenge killer. Not to mention there are some Pokemon like, let's say, Gengar that just fear Roaring Moon and just probably don't want to risk it at all. So that's going to be his main niche here. So I'm thinking Rock Slide, Earthquake, Rest, and Sleep Talk. So a standard, a set, or I guess it's not very standard because it's not very common for Roaring Moon. I'm most talking about when it comes to like Rest and Sleep Talk. If you don't know what to put on your Gen 2 Pokemon, Rest and Sleep Talk is the default. Same with Leftovers. And I'm just gonna make this real quick, or real clear right now. Do not use Berserk Gene. Or you can use it if you want to be funny, but I just do not see that going well. It's interesting because with, an attack stat as high as this, and with speed as good as that, having a Berserk Gene where he just comes out with a free Sword Stance, it sort of sounds promising. Just get rid of maybe Sleep Talk or Rest, or get rid of both of them and you just have Body Slam and Double Edge, or you get rid of one of them so you have at least one special coverage. Interesting, all attacker, all revenge killer, but I'm just gonna give you a secret. That's gonna fail 50% of the time. If you know, you know. Let's just get on to the replays. Starting off with the boy himself, Snorlax. He does not have to compete with Tauros here. In fact, I'm pretty sure even Gen 2 or Gen 1 Snorlax, and more importantly, Gen 1 Tauros would actually, I think he would actually fear Snorlax, but I'm actually not sure. I guess you could actually figure this out, because the Gen 2 mechanics would probably work in Generation 1 custom games, aka Sleep Talk. So maybe I should do that at some point. I should do Gen 1 Tauros versus Gen 2 Snorlax. That could be really interesting. But you won't have Leftovers. I don't know. But the reason I'm talking about that is because, as you can see here, there was not much to do. I don't think anyone really expected Roaring Moon had a chance against Snorlax. Granted, some sets he does significantly better against, like Fire Blast sets. He can probably do a good job fighting against, because even though his special attack is low, his special defense is pretty good. And for the time, it might even be great, because it's well over 100. I'm not exactly sure, but one thing I do know, Snorlax is the king, and Roaring Moon never even had a chance to even dent him. No one's surprised. And for the second best Pokemon, Zapdos, I might have messed up a little bit. I probably should have put Rock Slide on Roaring Moon here instead of a Double Edge, but I think it's fine, because the outcome didn't change either way. Hidden Power didn't do as much as I thought, but I think it's Gen 2, that's probably something I should get used to. And not to mention, Zapdos still has the big disadvantage, because in order to use Hidden Power, I think you need to lower your DVs by 2. So actually, Roaring Moon probably should have won this if he had Rock Slide, I'm assuming, but I'm not sure, honestly. I think just to be safe, this match should just be put in Cuckoo either way, but you guys can correct me in the comments, because out of all the gens I've done for both Gen 4, Gen 3, and Gen 1, this is the one I know by far the least about. But it also seems like maybe the easiest one to explain as well, because at least for this one, I don't have to worry about EVs, or for the most part, a lot of different items. And I'm getting sidetracked. Roaring Moon versus Cloyster. I'm not sure if Roaring Moon got lucky here or if this is a good matchup. This one should probably be and could go either way. Maybe? I'm not too sure. But Roaring Moon versus Raikou. I was surprised when I didn't see Thunder Wave on Raikou. And this is a case where hidden power is nice, but you really feel it, like getting rid of those DVs. You would have died either way, but you just made it easier for Roaring Moon. Which, yeah, being good against like the third or fourth best Pokemon, having be like almost like a free win, that's big. And a good example of like Roaring Moon's typing really coming in clutch. Same here actually. I actually do 100% believe now that Dragon is a very good defensive type, especially compared to the other dragons. You got both Kingdra and Dragonite. Kingdra's I actually don't think is better than Roaring Moon's, because yeah, he basically has no weaknesses because Dragon Breath and Outrage suck, and you're never going to see it. But Roaring Moon has a very viable immunity, which as you can see on screen right now. Meaning that like some Pokemon just have a harder time hitting it. And obviously, both of them are better than Dragonite's Dragon Flying type. Flying being quite literally the worst typing you could give a dragon. Because now you have a 4 times weakness to Ice, and you're getting rid of that really nice electric resistance, which Roaring Moon gets to keep. And even Kingdra doesn't get to keep it. So, like, agree to disagree with me all you want. I mean, you're probably going to agree with me that Dragon Dark is good. Not even, like, mentioning that along with the resistance to, you know, like the elemental stuff from Dragon, and with the immunity from Psychic, you also got nice resistances to Ghost and Dark. Ghost probably doesn't matter that much, I would assume. But a Dark resistance, when there's Pokemon like Houndoom and Tyranitar, yeah, that's nice. You enjoy that. And then Fortress. This one's weird. I felt like these two have a hard time fighting each other, especially with Roaring Moon having Rest Talk. So, I feel like this is like the equivalent of like a true neutral, but I couldn't tell you. I probably didn't even have a good moveset for Fortress. Just like Toxic, Rapid Spin, Spikes, and Explosion. You guys can tell me right now if that's a good or bad set. And that kind of made these replays hard. I just did not really know what was optimal for these Pokemon. Although I will say, Explosion killing Roaring Moon at full health, I thought was really interesting. I would not have expected that, especially when Roaring Moon has a base HP of 105. And then against Gengar, Gengar has Ice Punch, and I was gonna originally test to see how much it actually did to Roaring Moon, but it probably doesn't matter, because there's no way that Roaring Moon is getting killed by it. So, either Gengar puts it to sleep, which that could go well for it, but also with Sweep Talk, Hypnosis is just less effective than it usually would be. So I think Roaring Moon just has a great matchup, even if like Ice Punch could potentially be really threatening. But you guys can correct me in the comments if like I'm wrong. And then Golem, this one sort of surprised me, but also sort of didn't. Curse, you can like start living attacks, but you probably aren't able to get greedy with them. You could probably only get away with one. But just that one already does so much damage. So I don't really know, like, if like Golem even uses like Curse. Does he wear Rapid Spin? He might use that over if he does have it, or maybe he uses like a Rest Talk set, which is Earthquake, Rock Slide, Rest, and Sleep Talk. I don't know, but it is pretty nice to see him here, considering you know the downfall he had in Gen 1. Good to see him, you know, like on his own here. And not sure how Rhydon works, but I'm curious if you guys could tell me like in the comments. And then Heracross. Mega Horn. It might not hit all the time, but Roaring Moon does not have a way to really threaten him. So it's probably going to hit sooner or later. And when it does, death. Instant death. You really thought your dragon could defeat a bug? What a noob. And then against Jinx. Strangely, Jinx looks like a shiny? Did I accidentally... I might have accidentally made it shiny, or that's just what its sprite looks like in Gen 2. Either way, I think Roaring Moon does too much damage. Jinx can't really like capitalize on Ice Beam, but it can still go either way, I guess. But it's most likely probably in Roaring Moon's favor. But I'm not completely sure. And then it gets Machamp. This one's funny. Obviously, Machamp has the ability to threaten Roaring Moon. But he has the ability to threaten Snorlax too, but it doesn't always work out, now does it? Yeah, when you have to rely on Cross Chop, it surprisingly makes the fight really even. You can get a good amount of Earthquakes in. Although in reality, Roaring Moon probably doesn't even risk it. But you cannot deny that it's still really funny. And then against Marowak, I had to redo this because I did not know that custom games doesn't automatically switch to DVs. So the first time I did it, I did a a standard Marowak sword stance, but then ended up doing 1 damage to the Salamence. So I was like, oh yeah, that's right, you gotta lower the DVs. Because those who don't know, if you don't lower Marowak's DVs by 2 in Gen 1 or Gen 2 custom games, or just in Gen 2 in general, it ends up creating this sort of, I think it's intentional game design, where anything that goes over a certain number ends up doing the opposite, to where you boost up too high and then you're doing less damage to a level 5 Rattata. I'm doing a really horrible job explaining it, but there's probably someone in the comments who can explain it for me in a much better way. TLDR, Roaring Moon, horrible chance against Marowak, because it can just one-shot after the Sword Dance boosts off. And it probably will, and you probably won't get a crit. And then against Skarmory, I was surprised to see Skarmory didn't have spikes. I didn't realize he only got that in Generation 3. But it really doesn't matter, because despite, Skarmory, his most famous thing being a hazard setter, here in Gen 2, he is great as a curse setter, and there is nothing Roaring Moon can actually do against it. It is just a free win for Skarmory. Just a free win, just be able to get a turn step setting up, and, good for him. I wouldn't really think of Skarmory being in this role, but it's pretty nice. And obviously, maybe this is a matchup where you can justify teching in and using Fire Blast, but even then, I'm still not convinced. But you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. I only have one more, because I could have made more, but I wasn't very sure, and I felt like I couldn't even describe stuff, because I don't think if I did Suicune or Vaporeon, I think that would have been really boring. But just try to find something to talk about while going over the replay. So I'm ending with Tyranitar, where both have super effective coverage, but it's not, stab. And to no one's surprise, Roaring Moon's Earthquake hits way harder than Tyranitar's Ice Beam. Although, funny enough, I saw Tyranitar had Outrage, and I was considering using it, but I was like, no, I gotta make this authentic, and give him a real coverage move he would actually use. So I went with Ice Beam, which Roaring Moon has an easy time taking care of. And man, am I the one that thinks Roaring Moon looks really blurry here? I can't be the only one that thinks that. Anyway, here's the tier list I came up with. There is so much I don't know, and maybe I should have spent more time trying to learn about it, but it is 11:16 where I'm at, and I need to get this video out today. Also, I see the Jinx right there. It's not a shine, it's just what it looks like. But I need to get this out by today, because I still need to do some traveling. Luckily, here in Johto, seems fine. It seems like Roaring Moon, even though it would probably be good, I'm calling it, and I'm going to say it's probably going to be borderline. It could do some things pretty good, and has some nice niches, but I don't see it being used enough to where it would have, it would be considered an OU Pokemon. There's plenty of borderline and underused Pokemon I think would be used way more. I still think something like Charizard would probably still be used more in spite of, Roaring Moon being faster and having a better typing. But I could be wrong. You guys let me know in the comments if you think he would be good or not. Now, if you excuse me, I need to get ready to go, because there's still more paranormal activity, but now I need to go to the Kalos region, where they've been spawning more ghost types. Yeah, that's probably not a good sign. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you all for watching. Comment what videos you would like to see. Let me know how you think Roy Moon would do in Gen 2 OU. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.